Guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about a case that is, you know when you just read a headline and you're like, what the fuck? That's pretty much what we're in for, so strap in. Thank you to Casetify for sponsoring this video. Go to casetify.com/readytoglare to get 20% off your new favorite phone case. After man dies in mystic toad venom ceremony, Spanish porn star charged with manslaughter. Nacho Vidal described himself as a mentor guiding people through a process of change. I mean, a lot of this makes sense to me, yes, but the mystic toad venom ceremony, that has some question marks coming from me. Like, what does that even mean? I'm just like imagining this like massive fat toad with like a crown or something. I'm going into an Alice in Wonderland kind of fantasy. I'm just gonna not explain all of that to you. It's really not that important. A Spanish porn star has been charged with manslaughter for his alleged involvement in psychedelic toad venom ceremony that resulted in a man's death, police said Wednesday. Investigators tracked down 46-year-old Nacho Vidal, whose birth name is Ignacio Gonzalez, during an 11-month probe into the death of fashion photographer Jose Abad. I don't want to butcher it. According to police report acquired by The Guardian, Abad died in July 2019 in a mystic ritual that involved inhaling hallucinogenic vapors from the venom of the Sonoran desert toad, according to the report. Vidal and his family commonly inhale these vapors at their home, investigators said Thursday, according to the Daily Telegraph. I need to know what this fucking toad looks like. I'm sorry, I should have prepared better, but this is of absolute peak importance. What the fuck is the thing called? I was kind of right. Aw, but he's cute. I have quite a few questions here because it's like, why are you and your family inhaling these often at home? That seems very dangerous. If you want to have your acid, LSD, whatever trip, it makes sense to me that you would do that once or twice or not like every day or commonly, because then I feel like it becomes dangerous and it can just like really, especially if you have any mental illnesses, yikes. So I'm not saying do drugs, but most of the time you hear people saying, oh yeah, I did a trip once or twice or something, but it's not like, oh yeah, I did a trip Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's not typical from the people I know, but maybe I'm just in a very boring scene. The toad secretes a toxin to ward off predators that, when dehydrated, contains the psychoactive compound 5-MeO-DMT, or DMT, which has hallucinogenic properties according to Rolling Stone. DMT scares the shit out of me, frankly. Like, the more I read about DMT, the more I just am glad I've never even wanted to do any of that. In a 2016 video on his YouTube channel, Vidal talked about the many benefits of the ritual, which he said helped him reconnect with his soul after a long battle with depression, according to the Telegraph. Okay, I'm gonna preface this. I've never done hallucinogens, and I know I would not react well to them because of my depression and anxiety. Just the concept gives me anxiety to think about, so I would never. So I don't know if you can have these mystical spiritual experiences. I know of a lot of people who said they've experienced ego death, who have experienced some kind of, not necessarily even spiritual awakening, but an awakening in regards to themselves. Like, they'll realize that some of their traits are from this or that, or they'll realize that something was toxic in their lives and they're gonna remove it. I'm not saying do drugs. I'm saying I've heard these stories from people. I personally have never experienced that. Yeah, when I did drugs, there was never anything spiritual about it, sis. Truly, no. It was just a good time. Bad decisions were made. It's a bad decision. Don't do drugs, kids. So I don't want to say necessarily that I don't believe it at all, that it can be a spiritual experience or whatever, but or reconnect with his soul, especially if you have mental illnesses. Like, maybe it can help, who the fuck knows, not me. I do think it's dangerous to portray things as inherently positive experiences, mainly because the way you're going to experience a drug depends on who you are, what your traits are, even just like the chemicals in your body. You know, like if you're someone that's super depressed, doing shrooms might be different than someone who is very laid back and doesn't have any mental health issues. So like, I definitely feel like it's dangerous to market something as something that will automatically give you an awakening, because it's possible that it will and it's very possible that it won't. So kind of promising that with any kind of drug, I think, is a bad idea, because then you're taking the responsibility essentially for their experience. So That's my TED Talk, okay? Hire me if you want me to talk to schools about not doing drugs, because I'm such a good example. He described himself as a mentor, guiding people through a process of change. 2 other unnamed individuals, a man and a woman, were arrested along with Vidal, according to The Guardian. This isn't Vidal's first brush with the law. In 2012, he was one of 80 people arrested during a Spanish crackdown on the Chinese mob, which had allegedly been involved in tax evasion and money laundering schemes, according to the BBC. I swear to God, the more I read in this story, the more I'm like, what the fuck is going on in this man's life? Truly, what is going on between toad venom, the mob, tax evasion? Like, what are you not doing in terms of crime here? This part I think is slightly shady, and I'm living for it. Just listen to this. Vidal works in the adult film industry. His self-written IMDb page describes him as a Spanish-born super stud whose swarthy good looks and wild-eyed approach to his work have kept him very busy. My eyes are tearing up because I think it's funny and because it's a billion degrees, but I don't want to ruin my makeup. I don't know why that's so shady to me. It's like, oh yeah, this self-written IMDb page. So essentially they're just pointing out that he's complimenting himself, really. I just laugh at the idea of someone writing their own IMDb page where instead of just staying factual and being like, he's been in such and such films, you have to go to the length of describing himself as a Spanish-born super stud. I don't know, to me that's really funny in like a terrible way, but anyway. The page lists him as an actor with hundreds of credits, including Nacho Invades America and Nacho Vidal, the Sexual Messiah 2. Vidal also runs an online store which sells dildos, candles, and penis perfume bottles. I mean, like, did they really have to tell us Nacho Vidal, the Sexual Messiah 2? Like, that's a classic. Everyone owns that. Hello. Oh man, the titles of porn movies sometimes just send me. His lawyer, Daniel Salvador, told the Spanish news agency EFE that Abad's death was entirely accidental and Vidal did not act as a shaman, according to The Guardian. Nacho is very upset by the death of this person, but he considers himself to be innocent, he said. With all due respect to the dead man and his family, Nacho maintains the consumption of the venom was completely voluntary. So, the parts that have to do with Nacho in terms of like how he talks about himself and everything are comical, but the reality is there still was a death here, so I'm not making light of that. I'm just making fun of Nacho Vidal because some of that shit I can't. In terms of the death, I feel like it all depends on a number of factors, because first of all, apparently Vidal didn't represent himself as like a shaman or as like a, you know, like a guardian in all of this, right? But first of all, we don't know that, because if someone is kind of gonna tell you, hey, you can take this drug, I'll lead you through it, whatever, that makes things more complicated because you're kind of putting yourself in a position of power, and with power comes responsibility. So if that was done, that changes things. That being said, if he just happened to have this friend over and he was like, hey, do you want to do this drug, essentially? And the friend was like, okay, yeah, sure. Then that's your own responsibility, because it's like you weren't forced to do it, you chose to do it. So when you choose to do things, you have to take the responsibility for the consequences. That being said, it also depends on how the drug was explained to him. If you don't know about my past, I have a video about it, I can link it somewhere. When you do drugs, most of the time, there are other substances already in the mix, at least in any situation I've been in. There's always been alcohol prior. But aside from that, it's not like you have a sit down and someone's like, hey, I'm gonna offer you cocaine. Let me tell you the chemical compounds of cocaine, and let me tell you everything that can go right and everything that can go wrong. And then they list like how it can fuck up your nose forever, how it's obviously addictive, how, you know, it can be laced with things that can fuck you up entirely. That's not really the conversation you have. It's usually someone saying, hey, you wanna get high? And then someone's like, yes or no. And if they're already inebriated, they're gonna probably make bad decisions. So I don't know how this venom was explained to him unless it's common knowledge in their circle that everyone knows about this weird ass toad venom. But that also I think is a factor. So like I don't think we know enough to say how guilty or innocent Vidal is. In my opinion on this one, I'm kind of in the middle, because I do think that there is your own, you know, self-responsibility and your own accountability. On the other hand, it's also like we don't know if there was pressure, we don't know how it was explained or maybe represented or misrepresented. So you can let me know what you think in the comments down below. This case is absolutely bizarre. That title, I'm still shook. Let me know what you guys think, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and let's get right into the fan art.